Hello, do you like Game of Thrones? We do. I'm Ryan Stevens. I work on the editorial team. I'm here with Jeremy Hoffman. He's the producer on GTTV. Marco Rosado is one of our video editors. And Brandon Jones, the voice of GameTrailers. And we're here to talk about Game of Thrones, the television show, kind of, I guess.
Your voice.
Yes, this is my on-camera voice, my persona, as it were. And we've all read the books, so I think we're going to try to stay spoiler-free as possible. But later on, we may delve into some of that territory. And I think just to kick things off, I actually watched a show of Jeremy over at his house. He made a Feast of Thrones, which you can search the hashtag for.
Hashtag Feast of Thrones, 12-course meal. But if anyone would like a lemon cake, if you guys want to jump in.
Do you have any milk of the poppy in there?
I wish.
Anyway.
I need some more of that Fire and Ice brandy we were drinking.
But we DVR'd it, so we started it a little late, and we actually skipped the opening scene, so we had to go back and rewatch it with the White Walkers.
That was, Sam's scene. I was a little disappointed that we didn't see a little bit more of. There was a lot of characters that I thought we were going to see that we didn't, and Sam was one of them, and I was that was more of my mistake of being way too excited.
How does Sam get out of that? I don't remember that from the books. How do they all, as an ocean of walkers, just like just kind of stroll past him at the end of season 2?
The power of editing.
But I mean, he looks at him. Like one of them looks down right at Sam, which is a fun moment. It's a nice introduction to, or reintroduction to them. But they never really explained that.
Well, there was a battle at the Fist of the First Men, and in the show what they did is they just go to black at the beginning of the season, and you hear like fighting, and then you see Sam running by himself, so you assume like, okay, everyone died, right? But in the book, like, they describe the fight, right? Like there's a siege around the mountain, right?
Yeah, and isn't that in the book? And this really isn't a spoiler. Isn't that when he stabs? Uses, or is that
that's later. That's in the forest.
Okay, well, see, that's why I'm keeping it vague. They're mixing up so much from pulling in stuff from book 2 to season 3, and season 3 stuff was in book 2. They're really on their own timeline now. So
I do think it is a nice kind of bookend, or like a reflection of the first book and the first season, where you do kind of start with the White Walker, which kind of sets up the whole kind of, this opposite story from the dragon. So it's kind of nice to go back to that a little bit, even though obviously, as we know in the books, magic and that kind of mythical stuff becomes more and more real. We saw the giant, which I thought looked really, really good. I loved his face and his height. He was about the height of like 2.5 men, I would say, which is also
my wife didn't believe it. He walked on. She's like, no, that's a half giant. I'm like, no, that's a giant. She's like, no, that's a half one. And they called him a giant. It's like, ha-ha. She thought giant? Well, she thought giants were a little bit taller than that, but I thought that was fine. I mean, that clearly, if you saw one of those, you would.
I thought he looked pretty good.
There's basketball players, and then there's that guy. I mean,
like, those were mammoth tusks.
Right.
So that's like a big giant.
It's big enough for me.
What did you guys think of Mance?
That was cool. That guy's a great actor.
And that's a great scene.
My brother had a good point. He's like, it's always nice when a new character is introduced in a show and just kills it in the first scene. Just great right out of the gate. So I'm excited. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I think Jon Snow's kind of little pledge about like why he wanted to join, even though there's a little truth in there and maybe a little misdirection. But I thought it was, I mean, it's the reason we kind of like the show, right? It's like layered on top of things. To kind of jump ahead a little bit, what's Tyrion's dad's name? Tywin, yeah. What a great character, going from like his kind of like soft heart with Arya last season to like just being completely brutal and crushing with Tyrion.
Well, he's always like
Tyrion,
that. I mean.
No, I know, but I mean, these aren't one-dimensional characters, and I think he's the kind of guy, he kind of really owns any scene that he's in, so it's good, and also it's kind of good to see Tyrion be like, have daddy issues along with Cersei. What are you going to tell father?
One of my favorite things in the book series is they have a lot of really great passing moments where like, two characters who've been doing separate things on the other side of the world will pass each other, and if you're not paying attention, you'll totally miss it. And in the books, Tywin and Arya were kind of like that. They're just kind of like, oh, that was a neat little thing that went by. And in the show was like, no, let's stretch that out for several episodes. And I thought it kind of took a hit with Tywin's character that's like, are you a complete idiot that you're not, like, A, not noticing who she is, and B, even that, not noticing that something's going wrong, that she clearly has some kind of attitude, or like every time you look at her, she's giving you the shifty eye. It's like every single time. So I thought that was a bit of a stretch.
Do you think, though, that he would just, I mean, obviously he knew she was hiding something, but that she was hiding that she was Arya Stark of Winterfell? That's like, out of the millions of people that live in Westeros, that she would be.
Yeah, I always took it as more of a like, he killed my, he knows that her father was killed by him, like her dad was a common soldier. Like that's why she had the attitude, not because, I think he knew there was some sort of past there, but didn't think it went up as high as he did. And he had never met her. So there's no reason for him to know who she is.
Do you think later on there's a conversation between Littlefinger and Sansa, and then Littlefinger, I don't know if he's lying to Sansa or not, but he says he knows where Arya is. Do you think he recognized her in Harrenhal?
That's a good question.
That's really good, actually.
That's a good question. I just took that as like he obviously is going to tell Sansa anything she wants.
Exactly, yes, that's about how I took it. But then other people was like, oh, then he recognized her. I'm like, well, he did it in the book, but now that he's
playing the long con, right? Without going too much into it.
I mean, without spoiling even the books at this point, we still have no idea what his motivations are for a lot of it.
Well, he has a crush on Kat. We all know that.
Oh, but I'm just saying,
And
like,
then-
his end goal for the kingdom, even through, like, book 5, is still one of the most questionable, like, what is he trying to pull?
Well, we know that Varys is playing a higher game
Oh, yeah.
than Littlefinger, I think.
Well, from the last book, but let's not go quite there yet.
Speaking of Varys, though, one of the characters, that I was hoping we'd see in this episode. And
Who else? We didn't see Arya. We didn't see Jaime. Very little Robb Stark. That scene was kind of like, I'm mean to my mom. The end.
I think out of everything I've seen, if we want to talk about differences between the book and the show, the biggest thing that grinds my gears about the stuff that they've changed from the book to the show that to me doesn't make any sense. Like I see absolutely no redeeming value out of the way they told the story is Robb and his mom, between what she did and what he did. Because in the book you had this great confrontation between them where like when he met his mom, he was already married. And when she bumped into Robb, she had already let Jaime go. And so they kind of had that impasse where it was like, I really want to hate you, and I really want to hate you, but I can't because who am I to talk? Because I just did something I knew you weren't going to like to begin with. And the show's like, oh, that's not cool. Let's not do that. Let's make Robb a complete idiot. Let's have Catelyn warn him before he gets married, and he'll even do the dumb decision after that.
well, it's also, it's...
I think we're getting into some spoilers there, brother.
No, I mean, this has already happened on the show. They're already married. I mean,
Well, he shouldn't have been in book 2 or season 2 at all.
sure.
So I think that's a little bit of like TV, like, well, we have an actor, he's cast, we have to keep him in. If we don't have him in for 2 seasons, people are going to forget who he is. So they had to put him in last season. So they had to give him a storyline. For those of you that haven't read the books, he is one of the characters that doesn't have a point of view. So you really don't interact with him as much, and you only hear about him through other characters. So I think they had to put him in for that reason.
Yeah, he's one of the main characters that the story changes the most because he doesn't marry the same woman in the book. Like the character you see in the show is created for him.
For no reason.
It should have been.
What do we gain at all for her being this completely magically brought up character? It means nothing. I have never met anyone that means anything to. So I have absolutely no idea why the writers did that.
Well, I also think that there's a couple theories.
It's the HBO.
And it's also, well, there's an HBO, like we just need to cast a hot girl and have it happen sooner. But there's also kind of how Robb's storyline's going to pay off.
Right.
And there's some build up to that I think could be interesting with him and his mother. And she's warning him. And there's a lot more foreshadowing now this way. Like, there's a lot more build up this way. And who is this girl and where did she come from? And is there maybe another character? Now, this isn't from the books, but in the TV universe, is someone pulling her strings, putting her in place?
Yeah, she's from Volantis in the show,
Right.
whereas his wife in the
Was a
book,
Spicer from...
was north of Lannisport, the Crag, I think it was called. So, right, it's like making all
I
these
read all the
faces.
books. I don't remember any of this stuff.
Yeah, stuff flies over my head so
Yeah, I
quickly in
just
that
think,
book.
I don't know. I think it could be interesting to see...
Like Littlefinger's, employee that's not in the books, but she's there. Like, I get it. Otherwise, there's no one for Littlefinger to talk to.
But you don't like
there's
her,
no-
right, Marco?
Who the
Ross.
Ross?
The
I think like the majority of book readers don't like Ross. I mean, not because she's not created. It's just that she was created as a tool for characters to basically do it to her while they're explaining lore.
Exposition fucking.
Yeah, it's exposition of it. We all know what that means, but you know, but and I mean, not to say that that's great.
I
you know,
think
as
it's
a
one
guy
of those
that's like,
things that
"Great,
works.
Ross."
I mean, I think one of the biggest things, and that book readers, and I am obviously one of them, but like, so much of that book happens inside of people's heads.
Yeah.
It has to. You
Or,
have
or dialogue.
but a lot of that is like a lot of the plotting is
yeah,
done
yeah, yeah. It's internalized.
internalized. So you have to have like some low-level servant that you could just bounce ideas off of that you know isn't ever going to turn on you, right?
But she knows everything now.
Small
She's
aside, but
fucked
you know
everyone.
they're making Ender's Game right now,
Yeah.
and so much of that book is in Ender's head. So I am really curious how they're gonna do it.
That's gonna
The
be a
poster,
bad
the poster
movie.
looks
I'm
awful.
so afraid. I'm so scared.
I'm pretty disappointed in that
I
film.
will say, you know, going back to Tyrion and his dad's talk, where his dad gives him like slight acknowledgement for the battle, and it was a thing that was cut out probably for like special effects budget. But do you remember he had the I forget what they called it, but the line that actually wrecked the ships,
Chain.
the chain,
Which they started
which
building
was so
in the first
good.
season, though.
It was such a
They
good.
did?
Yes.
It was such a
I
good
did
plot
not
point.
catch that.
It's a good plot
And
point.
it's what Tyrion
It's
did.
one of those
That
things
was like-
like
that
I
was all his
remember.
idea.
And you know, his dad was like, "Well, that was a good idea," and like kind of, it was great to see his dad crumple up this amazing idea along with the Pyromancy Guild and just shove it away, you know, and like, and here it kind of like lessened I don't know the impact of Tyrion a little bit.
Isn't there a scene in the first season, I could be completely crazy, early in the second season, where he meets with all the blacksmiths and shows them a ring and what he wants built? Doesn't Tyrion do that? Or am I
In
crazy?
the show?
In the
I
show.
don't remember.
In the show.
I swore that happened in the show.
Wow,
guys
you
are all
really
gonna-
blew my mind
You guys
if
are all
that
going to tell me
happened.
how wrong I am. That's fair.
If your imagination's that powerful, that you're reading the books and it's looking like the show in your head.
Yeah, well.
Peter
no,
Dinklage is
all
like-
those characters have completely taken over for me, though, in my head. Like,
Oh, no, the
they've
casting's
all
impeccable.
replaced.
I don't know, like Ygritte and someone like Yara and Asha.
Really?
The only one that I wouldn't say they cast him wrong, because that is a hard role to cast. But Dinklage, for me, is the most like, not that he's doing a bad job.
You wanted Warwick
Hold on.
Davis?
We're not going to be friends
Hold
here.
on, no,
so
no, no,
hold
no,
on.
hear me out, hear me out. He is doing an amazing job on the show. He is fantastic. I can watch that guy do anything. But if we're really going to get down to brass tacks and like explain to somebody who hasn't read the books about the show, Tyrion is different in the books. A case in point, the fact that his nose gets chopped off, and they actually made a joke about it in the episode where she's like, "Oh, I heard your nose got chopped off," but thankfully that didn't happen. And that's really interesting. That like there's one bit later on where he has to wear like in one of the later books, he has to wear like a funny outfit, and he's just like, "Look at me, I got no nose, I'm wearing this stupid outfit," and like you really get the sense that like. Nobody. I mean, you kind of look at. We love Dinklage, and like you don't love Tyrion in the book. You love his actions. You like his mind, but he is a weasel. Like he had, like his voice, everything about him is just nails on a chalkboard
He's
to
a
everybody.
sympathetic
I feel like he
character.
also changes in the book a lot, like in not just his obvious changes, but like that first like time you really see him, he's like doing a backflip off of a wall and like does his little prancy dance with John, and you're like, and then he never does anything like that again, like ever again. So he's one of those characters. He's so good. Every scene with him is amazing. And full disclosure, my dog's name is Tyrion. So
And he has a profile picture on Facebook with Tyrion.
yeah, and, yeah. So
Yeah, it's not
Kind of my
a
favorite.
better or worse thing. It's just different. Something that I noticed was, he's definitely the handsome Tyrion, if there could be a handsome Tyrion.
I mean, speaking of characters that I think we love, I thought, is it Bronn or Brom?
Bronn.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about how he's doing better than almost anyone.
him and Ross are like now have gone from the lowest to the highest.
Was
at this
there a
point in
weird
the show.
echoing, like when he went for his back dagger when he was with the Queen's Guard or whatever? Was that kind of a weird echo when he was like confronting the Hound from last season? Like, wasn't that like almost the exact same thing?
That's his move.
Yeah, but like it's weird that they've primed it twice without like letting it go anywhere.
I think that's like the actor that's good. He'll create little quirks about his character that are not in the script, and he'll just enact them. And that's what good actors do.
No, it was good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It endears you to that guy a little bit more, even though he doesn't get all that much screen time.